Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. In today's video, we're back to work on the awesome paint job that we're doing on that beautiful Kiesel guitar. This thing's gonna look unreal. In today's video, we are going to do the freehand airbrushing, the cool stuff that kind of starts to make this thing come to life and gives it some dimension and all of that. And we're gonna add our color. And then in the next video, we're gonna do a cool effect on it. And then finally, we'll deal with the clear coat polish type stuff and getting it reassembled. So we're almost there. We got probably 3 videos left in this series. I hope you guys like it. I'm gonna jump right into voiceover and explain what I'm doing, and then once I'm done that, we'll probably just toss on some music and you guys can watch me paint. Let's get to it. So I've pulled my masking at this point, and I guess I'm working on what is essentially the foreground for this piece. The only masking I have left is on the, I don't want to call them eyeballs, but the part that I want to stay bright in the middle of the eye. I'm building some dimension here. I haven't really gone through a bunch of effort to pick a light source, because this one's kind of a straight on. Usually you would, and that would impact which side of all of this kind of detail you shade. So this is a stylized skull. Obviously it's not designed to be true to life or anything. If it was, I would have used a reference photo when drawing it. But if you saw in the last video the way that I had it masked out, it was pretty clear that I was going for more of this stylized, aggressive look. In order to get more of that look, I create kind of more ridges and stuff like that, and I change the angle of the eyes, the way that they're set up and everything. Now, you will have seen here, I don't do a lot in the initial stage where I'm mapping out where everything goes. All I've really got on there is the outline, the nose, the eyes, and the temples, a little hint of where they go. I do most of that work here, but I still drew it all out at the first step, and now I've got to redraw it, but with the airbrush. As you can probably tell, I start working from those mapped out areas and then toward the larger open areas. So I started around the eyes, and now I'm doing kind of the cheekbone area, which is right next to an edge that I had masked, so it gives me a nice reference point. And then if I'm putting something in the middle, like usually on a skull, for example, there's a line down the center almost where the teeth start, if you're doing teeth. So I'll start with the middle ones and work my way out. So I'm always looking for some kind of specific reference point. See, there I am doing it here, even though this one doesn't have teeth per se, as you'll see. I always try and create some kind of reference point from which to work, so that I can end up with, reasonable measurements, because if you put something in the wrong place, it's a little tougher to make it look right. Now, with a lot of airbrushing and stuff, you can fix it. You can just kind of paint over it and whatnot, but I'm working on a silver background here. I've got that metallic, so I can't really come in and re-metallic everything. It would be very tough, particularly on a small piece, a smaller area, because the metallic won't fit through a small airbrush like this. So I've just got to be careful, get everything in the right place to start with. Now here I'm going to get rid of this junk in the bottom as soon as I realize right at the outset how infeasible it's going to be to make this look good. The concept that I had in mind for it, it's clearly just not going to work. So I'm just going to paint right over it all and kind of redo that section. So we'll skip forward past that, because you don't need to see me just spray black at something haphazardly. And then moving back in here. So there are a couple different ways to get some detail here. Like I said in the last video, a skull needs a little bit of texture, and that's part of why I did a bit of a stippled effect with the silver. I'm also, I'm putting in little spots and stuff on occasion. I'm doing the occasional little effect where you'll see the paint go on what appears to be wetter. And what that does is it blows a little of the paint out from the center of the spray pattern out to the outside and creates an interesting little effect that kind of looks like cratering a little bit. So those are just some techniques that you can use on something like this if you want to, but the key is just practice, try stuff out, and don't be afraid to get a little texture on something like this. If it looks too perfect, it just won't look right. So now I'm going, and even more gently, I'm adding in kind of the broader shadows. I'm extending out some of these lines. So it's not really a drawing exercise now, nor was it before, but even more so now. It's more kind of adding the tone, the shade that gives it some dimension, and that's what airbrushes excel at. And then I go in to do a little crack in the top of the skull, because why not? I'm also building out the background a little bit while I'm at it, giving those some texture. I assume this is just my kind of creative whatever here, but I assume that these wouldn't be smooth, so I'm doing the same thing for them, adding a little dimensionality, making it look like they've got some weird shapes going on them, something other than just a smooth looking whatever this is. And that'll be it for kind of building up the front like this. I've put some shade around the outside of the skull. Like I said, this one is a front light source rather, so I don't have to pick an angle and have all the shades coming off of one side. But when I move on to the next stage on the front, I'll be doing the eyes, for example, and I'll be using them as a light source, which is weird, but the concept being kind of a glowing eye. So you'll see that I put some shading coming directly off of them that would insinuate that they're lighting something up in a particular color. You'll see that in a minute. Let's move on to the back here, and you'll see that I'm going to do the same thing but bigger. And these bigger ones are a little easier. So if you're trying to get into this, if you're trying to start airbrushing, try it on something bigger. Try the zoomed in version like this, where you don't have to make a whole bunch of small detail first, and then practice on something really small, so way smaller than I had on the front. Practice drawing these things in really, really small. Another couple quick tips for airbrushing, even though, like I said, this isn't an airbrushing tutorial. I'm not really the guy to do that, I don't think. But when you are airbrushing with a dual action airbrush like this one, keep pushing down. Keep the air on. So I'm pushing that button up top, and when you push that, you get the air. Just keep that down. Air is free, basically. Then you paint by pulling back a little bit, and that pulls the needle back, a lot like with a normal gun. Just be gentle. That's all. Be gentle, and occasionally aim off to the side and fire the thing at full force to clear out any paint, because sometimes when you're spraying really lightly, the paint will dry in the nozzle, and you kind of need to clear a little bit of that out, or you'll end up with spitting and all sorts of little problems. If anybody's looking for a nice little beginner airbrush, I have a number of them in the Amazon link in the description, so feel free to check them out there. And you can find a variety of them, from more advanced ones for finer detail work to just these beginner ones. Really, the only difference is if you get one with a really small nozzle size, it gets a little bit more difficult to manage, and you need to be more careful about how you thin your paint. But it'll do more detail. And if you get one with a larger nozzle size, it can pass larger, thicker paints through it. Not larger, I guess, but yeah, thicker, and it can spray things quicker. It just can't do quite the same level of detail. But even a 0.05 airbrush, which is about as big as you would normally see, you can still get a reasonable level of detail if you know what you're doing. So if I were recommending one, I would probably say go for like a 0.35 nozzle, or buy a kit. You can get something like the Pache Talon kit, which isn't the greatest airbrush ever, but it works well, and they come with a couple different nozzle sizes, so you've got some versatility right off the bat. That was me going off topic, mostly because you've just seen me do this on the front. I like this zoomed in one. I think it looks really cool the way that it covers the entire face of the guitar like this, and it gives me some options to put in a little bit of extra texture if I want it. I get to play with these curves in the back a little bit. Yeah, lots of good stuff going on here. For this one, you can see I just did the one eye. I thought it was an interesting touch, and I didn't want to try and airbrush one over top of the ferrule holes because I didn't think it would look good. So that's where we're at for now. I think I'm going to probably stop talking right about now. I've got a quick little, my usual Skillshare sponsorship message coming up in a moment here, and then we'll move on to the color. For the color, there's really no need for me to narrate through it, so what I will tell you is they are fully transparent paints, and I use them because I'll be able to see the texture, the sparkle of the aluminum through them, which is important to me, and yeah, they give a really cool effect. One thing to keep in mind with them, every time you add some, it darkens, and that's about it. They're not all that difficult to use. You just have to practice with them. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to give it a thumbs up if you did, and I hope you enjoy the rest of it. Have a good one. Just a quick interruption here for a sponsorship message. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I occasionally have videos that are sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning platform that has tutorial videos a lot like YouTube, but with some quality control and some very specific stuff that they specialize in. So not just anybody can make a Skillshare video, and they are generally pretty high quality. In particular, I'm looking at guitar tutorials for myself because I've kind of tried to make a commitment here that I am going to learn how to play the guitar a little bit better so I can do some better demos. And the one that I'm working on right now is right here, Mike Boyd Guitar Fundamentals. Pretty good. I'm going to keep working my way through it. I don't have a lot of time to dedicate to it, but yeah, hopefully I'll be able to play the guitar a little better by the time the next one rolls around. They have tons of stuff on here though. Fine art, video making, business and entrepreneurship, all sorts of stuff that I think a lot of you guys will find useful, including video making for those of you who have gotten into having a YouTube channel or something like that, particularly with the Great Guitar Build-Off coming to a close here. I know a lot of people have used this as an opportunity to kind of start up a channel, and this is a good source for that kind of thing. So we're about to head back into the video and make this fretboard, but just before we do, one last thing I'll mention. The first 1,000 people that click the link in the description for Skillshare get a 1-month free membership. So you get 1 month to kind of try this out and see if you like it. Alright, let's get back to the video.